Hey everybody, welcome back into AT&T Stadium, where for the final time, the Ocala Sports Crew is coming at you from Big 12 Media Day. Braden Bush, myself, Ben Hutchens, my brother Sam Hutchens, recapping what we saw on day 2 of Big 12 Media Day. Our day started, guys, with the Big 12 Commissioner of Officials, Greg Burks, coming out here and telling us a little bit about the rule changes they got going on. 3 things stuck out in my mind. The first was the Kenny Pickett rule, right? You remember Pickett's slide in the ACC championship game where he faked like he was going down and scored a touchdown? That's not going to happen in the new Big 12. There's a rule in place that stops that. Feigning injuries, Burke said, look, there's really not a whole lot officials can do when guys are getting up really slow, maybe kind of coordinated from a coach, all falling down together at the same time, because officials are taught to treat every person like he's injured, even if he's probably feigning it. He said just talking about it is going to, in his mind, maybe hopefully negate some of that in the future, but we'll see about that. The final thing he talked about was horns down, unsportsmanlike conduct. He said, hey, horns down is just a gesture like any other gesture you'd make in a normal football game. The only thing that can get penalized is if you do it in an opponent's face or where you're doing it at. So it's kind of all about the context behind the horns down gesture.
Yeah, and I asked a follow-up to a question that Mike Gundy had brought up earlier in the week. Of course, Mike Gundy and OSU spoke yesterday, and something that Mike Gundy said was, hey, all this talk about realignment, what schools going where, super conferences and all that, Mike Gundy said, I don't necessarily see the conference identity playing as big of a factor in recruiting as some people might think. He said, nowadays, he said, young people, they just kind of care about what the school offers, what the school can do for them, and they're not so caught up in playing in a specific conference. So I asked Texas Tech coach Joey McGuire about it. McGuire, of course, a legend here in the state of Texas for high school football, so he had some perspective, and he sort of agreed, didn't necessarily go all the way with Gundy, but didn't disagree either, saying, there's always going to be a place for what conference you're in and how that impacts recruiting. Recruits want that type of stuff to play in the best conference and to get that kind of acclaim, but also there is been an increase in the emphasis of facilities and the importance of the team and just what each individual school offers academically and athletically.
Well, one thing that's kind of been a hot topic for more than a year now is NIL, but as Matt Campbell put it today, he said NIL really doesn't affect us over names. And Brennan Presley, he kind of said that same thing yesterday. He kind of said, I'm not really worried about it. He couldn't even really say what NIL deals he had. He said it really wasn't important to him. Quentin Johnson, wide receiver at TCU today, he kind of echoed that too. He said, I ain't worried about it. So there's a lot of talk about that, but kind of talking around with some guys, it didn't really seem like maybe it was as important to some of these Big 12 schools as it seems, as you see maybe in other conferences. But even Matt Campbell, he said 95% of our guys are recruited. He said we don't even get in the transfer portal that much. So they acted like NIL and portal really wasn't that major.
Guys, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining us, not only today, but all week long as we're covering Big 12 Media Days from Arlington. Thanks for joining us.